Hello everyone. This is the second video of chapter Spring from Advanced Strength of Material. In our previous video, we have already discussed different types of spring, its different nomenclature, as well as how much energy a spring can store. In this video, we're going to discuss different types of stress developed on a spring as well as how the spring will deform. So let's start part 2. Stresses developed in a coil helical spring. Now before jumping to the topic, let's have a look different nomenclature which we're going to use to calculate the stress developed on a spring. P basically represent the axial load in Newton. Capital D represent the mid diameter of the coil in millimeter. Small d represent the wire diameter. Small p represent the pitch. Del basically represent the deflection of spring in millimeter. N represent the number of active coil. C represent the spring index, that is capital D by small d. G represent modulus of elasticity in Newton per millimeter square, and tau s represent the shearing stress in Newton per millimeter square. Let's consider this figure. In this figure, you have a coil spring in which you have applied a compressive load P like this. Now, due to the application of this compressive load P, let the spring gets deformed, and after deformation, the spring remain in equilibrium condition. Now, as the spring remain in equilibrium condition, so if you take any arbitrary cross section, in each and every cross section area, due to the application of this compressive force P, an equal and opposite reaction force will act like this. Now, due to the application of these two opposite acting force, a moment or a twist will be generated, which is nothing but P into D by 2, where D basically represent the mean diameter of the coil. And we know the shear stress due to the torque T is given by tau T, that is equals to TR by J, where R represent the radius of the wire and J represent the polar moment of inertia of this cross section. And if you replace this R by D, this will give you TD by 2J. Also, due to the application of this reaction force P, a shear stress is also generated. Let this shear stress represent by tau P, that is equals to P by A, where P is the opposite reaction force and A basically represent the cross section area. And if you put all the value, that is polar moment of inertia J equals to pi d to the 4 by 32, and area A will be pi d square by 4, you will have with equation that is shear stress developed due to the torque T, that is equals to tau T equals to 8 PD by pi dq, and shear stress due to the reaction force P will be tau P, that is equals to 4P pi d square. So the total or the maximum shear stress developed on that particular cross section area will be given by tau max equals to the summation of the shear stress developed due to the torque T as well as the shear stress developed due to the reaction force P. And if you take common of 8 PD by pi dq, you will come up with this equation where C basically represent capital D by small d, which is nothing but the spring index. Now for maximum cases spring index C, that is capital D by small d, is very greater than 1, as the wire diameter is very less compared to the mean diameter of the coil. So the value of this 1 plus 1 by 2C is almost become 1. So we can say the maximum shear stress developed tau max, that is equals to 8 PD by pi dq. Now to get the exact value of the maximum stress, we need to add Kw, that is wall correction. This is for the inner surface, this is for the outer surface. Now let's see how the stresses is distributed throughout its cross section. We all know that shear stress due to torsion basically represented by Tr by J. That means shear stress is minimum at its center and maximum on its outermost radius. And if you plot it, it should look like this. Also, shear stress developed due to the force F will become F by A, where A represent its cross section and F basically represent the reaction force developed on that particular cross section area, and it is always act normally like this. So if you just add these two graph, so this is basically for torsion and this is basically for shear, you will come up with a figure like this. Let's take another example in which again you have applied a compressive force F like this. Due to the application of this force F, two shear stress has been developed. One is the direct shear stress, and the direction of the shear stress will looks like this, and shear stress developed due to the torsion T will looks like this. And if you have sum up all these two, you will come with a figure like this. So this is how the stress is distributed across through its area. Let's calculate the deflection of helical spring. In our previous slide, we have already discussed that work done by the force P will be given by the area under this curve. So this work done can be represented by half into P into del, where del basically represent the deflection of the spring. We also know that the strain energy in a bar twisted by a torsional moment T through a total angle theta will be given by T theta by 2, and the total angle of twist theta will be given by TL by Gj, where L represent the length of the bar, G represent the modulus of elasticity, and J represent the polar moment of inertia. Now as the spring is made of a bar, so we can say L for a spring will be pi into capital D into N, where capital D represent the mean diameter of the coil and N represent the number of acting coil, and J represent the polar moment of inertia of the wire, that is equals to pi into small d to the power 4 by 32. We also know that torsional moment developed on a spring T, that is equals to PD by 2. Now as the work done is equal to the total energy stored, so you can equate P del by 2, that is equals to T theta by 2, and again if you have put the value of theta, that is TL by Jg, you will come up with the equation del equals to this. And again if you have put all those values, T is this and J is this, So you'll end up with the equation total deflection del equals to 8p into capital D to the power 3 times n by g into small d to the power 4. And if you replace this capital D by small d by spring index c, so this will give you 8p c cube n by gd. And also if you put this deflection value del in our stiffness equation, that is k equals to p by del, the new stiffness equation k will become gd by 8 c cube n. Now let's see what will happen with stiffness if you add two different springs in a series. Suppose you have one spring whose stiffness is K1 and you have another spring whose stiffness is K2, and you have added in a series and applying a load P. For two or more springs laid in series, the resulting spring constant or the stiffness K will be given by this equation, where K1 and K2 basically represent the different stiffness of the spring. And for this case, total deformation del will be given by del 1 plus del 2, where del 1 is the deformation of spring number 1 and del 2 is the deformation of spring number 2. Similarly, instead of add in series, let you have added parallelly. Suppose you have three springs whose stiffness K1, K2 and K3, and you have added parallelly and also apply a pulling force P. So let's have a look. What is the new value of stiffness K? So the new value of stiffness K will be K1 plus K2 plus K3, and the total deflection del will become P by K, that is equals to P1 by K1, P2 by K2 and P3 by K3, where P is nothing but P1 plus P2 plus P3. Well, that's all for today. We'll see you in our next video. Thank you everyone.